So today we are going through our splits that we made on or around July 1st, the OTS splits. And if you're not sure what OTS means, it means on-the-spot queen rearing. Kind of made famous by Mel Disicone. He's got a book on the subject and a pretty good solid following on the internet and on Facebook. And it seems to be a pretty successful method of maintaining your bees, especially for somebody that is a backyard hobbyist. It's fantastic. It's just a like an enhanced version, if you want to call it that, of a walkaway split. You have a little bit more control on this. So a couple of things about it is one good thing about the OTS split is that you give your bees a brood break. So for a period of time, you have no brood in the colony, and that helps keep the mites from building up too much in your colony. One of the things that I did is around day 24 or 25, I can't remember exactly what day it was, but by that point I had virtually no brood in any of my splits. I went in and I did a oxalic acid treatment. And so because the reason why I did it at that point, and I got this from John Schwartz, who is one of the more prominent teachers of the OTS method. But John made it a great point that that's a really good time because you kill the phoretic mites, and basically there's no mites under the cappings because oxalic acid doesn't kill mites under the cappings. So at this point, when you do oxalic acid vapor treatment, when all the mites are exposed, you can do a really good job at keeping the mite population down. Excuse me. So that's what I did about day 24 on the ones that I split. So I didn't do every single colony. I did a number of OTS splits in the spring, and some of those I didn't opt to split again. It just depends, but I think I did somewhere around, I don't know, 10 to 12 OTS splits, and we're gonna basically go through them right now and give you a good idea what kind of success that I had doing it. I would say, 75-80% I'd be really happy with. So I did notice a couple things. A couple colonies I left too many queen cells in. I had 2 swarms about 2.5 weeks after doing that. So somewhere in mid-July, I had 2 swarms that I lost. They ended up really high, and you can see I live out in the middle of the forest out here. So one of them ended up way up in the top of that tree up in there, and then another one ended up way up in there, and I wasn't able to retrieve them. I had some bait traps out, but it didn't work out for me. So the bees ended up moving on elsewhere. And my heart's not broken if they're populating the forest and can survive, but a July swarm is pretty iffy. Okay, so anyway, to me, the major benefit of doing the OTS is the fact that you get new queens going into fall. And I think my experience, which is I would say is still pretty limited, but last year, one of the things that I did do is I put all new queens in my colonies before winter. So I did that in July and August, and that worked out very well for me as far as keeping the mites down and also build up. So my bees went into winter with a lot of winter bees, and so that worked out very good for me. And even a couple of those were nucleus colonies. And they came out of winter with 4 frames of bees, and so that I would say like that's late March, and by a month after that, they had doubled in size, so they were about 8 frames of bees by April. So I would call that a success. The bees survived over winter, and so anyway, let's get into the colonies here, and we'll take a peek We'll go down through each one. We won't spend a lot of time showing inspections, but I'll show you each colony and then we'll see the results. All right, thanks. All right, so this is colony number 1. A lot of people will pull the queen out and then opt to, you know, squish her because of age, but this was my absolute best performing queen. And so I took her and I made another split with her. This was my best producer of the year. And so what I opted to do for this colony is I opted to leave it full size. So I took the queen, I made a small split with her, and I used some brood from other places. And then I took one frame and I put it in a mini mating nuke, one frame with cells and bees, and that has hatched and produced a queen, and it's currently in a mini mating nuke now. And then I left this one alone with some queen cells. So we're gonna take a peek in here now. And I pulled all the honey off this colony last week. And added some frames. I had to extract some frames as well. But all I'm really doing at this point is just looking to see if I can find some eggs. If I see a queen, that'd be great. If not, no problem. So here we go. Let's take a peek. So I know this top box has some fresh frames in it. They were during the period of time while the queen was waiting to get mated, the second brood box was full of honey. And since it was still kind of early and I needed room and I'm kind of out of boxes and frames, I went ahead and extracted most of it. I left them at least 2 or 3 solid frames like this one with honey in it. So here's a good honey frame. Honey and pollen. And we'll come back as soon as we find something that's noteworthy. Alright, so we've kind of had to go down into the bottom box here. And I'm not sure how good of a view I can give you. But the top box did not have any eggs, which in a way is good because if there was a laying worker, which I would expect by now, then there would have been some eggs up there. But the cool thing too that I saw is I saw nectar in that rainbow shape and open areas where there would be brood as if they're preparing for the queen to start laying. So I'm gonna call that a good sign so far. There's a good honey pollen frame on the outside where I'd expect it. Oh, and there's a queen. I see the queen. So there's our new queen right here at the bottom. You can see her right here walking around. She's nice. She's getting some attention. I like that she's on the second frame. Pretty good sized. And there's actually milky brood in here, so that's good. That's really good. I'm excited about that. So, all right, so I'm gonna just pull 1 or 2 more frames because there's a chance there might even be some cap brood in here. Although I think this one was a little later getting going because I just started seeing pollen. Okay, nope, there's some cap brood right here. So there you can see it, and some larvae. They're just starting to cap it. So, and that's good looking cat brood right there. So we're good to go. So we're one for one right now. And that other queen that I took from here, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I actually kind of designated her a breeder queen, and that's why I know she's a 2018 queen, but this colony was so pleasant to have this year. They were so nice to work that I decided I had to, and they produced me, you know, 100 pounds of honey. And I stopped supering them a week ago. So they could have produced more, but they're just so perfect to deal with. I mean, when I sell nukes next year, you know, I want to start making some queens from this colony. You know, especially for new beekeepers. You know, if you're in the business of selling nukes, selling nukes to new beekeepers is really nice. You know, but selling really nice bees, pleasant, easy to work with bees, is nice to do for them. Because there's some bees that are just not easy to work, and if you're a brand new beekeeper, it's too much. I know that from experience. But anyway, thank the Lord, I have a really nice queen in here. She looks good. She's already laying it up, and I'm gonna go ahead and button it up, put this top box back on, and we're gonna move on to the next colony. All right, so now we're gonna go into another nuke, which was from an Italian package bee. They built up pretty good. Produced me about 4 deep frames of honey, and I've had them in 5/5. I've taken frames from them, maybe made a split or 2 off of them this year. Don't remember exactly what I did, but I know that in this case I have taken, there is a hornet flying around, and I really would like to kill that hornet. But anyway, I've taken 1 nuke off of this one, and then I left the colony as is with queen cells. All right. I know that this was mostly honey up top, so I've left. I'm gonna just kind of go right down into the middle box here. They didn't like me last time I peeked in here either, so we'll see how they act today. So my goal is to overwinter these in a 5/5/5 configuration. So, and by the way, when I walk up to these colonies, the first thing I'm looking for is pollen coming in. You know, if I know that other colonies that I know were queen right are bringing pollen in, and these guys aren't, then, you know, then that worries me. But I've seen pollen from pretty much most of these colonies. Now, I've also put a couple of foundation frames in there. I've only got a couple weeks to get foundation drawn. So you want to get foundation drawn where I'm at in Michigan here, probably by mid-August, because after that it's really hard to get them to draw foundation. But for new queens, they will. Something to keep in mind. All right, pollen and nectar. I'm not really excited about the demeanor on this colony either, to tell you the truth. So there's plenty of room for the queen to lay in here. And at this point right now, I don't see where she's laid at all in this middle box. So we're gonna quickly peek down into that next box. That. at you in a minute here. Okay, so these bees are really flighty. Let's get you down here. And I'm not really in love with the demeanor. They haven't been at the politest bees this year, but they certainly were not evil. Right now, they're not really nice. If I move, they're all over it, so it's not always a good sign. See that? See, watch. See? When bees go after your hand like that and stuff, it's not really that exciting. It's not fun to work, but it also could be a sign that they are not queen right. But I didn't see any multiple egg cells, and so that is a good sign to me. All right, so we got pollen here. Look at that pollen frame. That thing is packed with pollen. That's pollen solid right there. You see that? And the other side is pretty much the same thing. Like that. Crazy, huh? You guys are not very nice to me today. Well, nobody's tried to sting me yet, but they got that not so pleasant way about them. That's not very exciting to me. All right, so one thing I don't like is I see a queen cell, and usually queenless bees making queen cell. Look at this. Yeah, not. And there's a queen cell there. There's nothing that they can make a queen with. I know that for a fact. Unless a queen got back, laid, and then they killed her immediately. So they're going to make queen cells out of drones. Yeah, and I don't like the way they're acting. So that's not good. Pretty nice queen cell there, though, if you were wanting. I'm going to go over here in the light real quick and see if I can't spot anything. But yeah, right now, this one might be a failure. And this one. So that's not a good sign. I would think. I guess it's possible she could be up in that top box, but I really doubt it. Definitely not a very pleasant colony right now. Okay, so here's a perfect frame for a queen to be laying in. All kinds of open cells. And actually, there's a queen on here. So there is a queen in here. She is right here. And she looks really solid. If you can see her, she looks like a really big queen, like a big mamma jamma. So I don't see where she's laid any eggs on here yet, and I guess it's possible she just moved in on that frame. Or it's possible she hasn't started laying yet. So I think what I'm going to do on this colony is just button it up. And I'm going to put a big question mark on this one. So I'll tell you what, we'll pull one more frame. That was a pretty big queen. I mean, she definitely looked like she was a mated queen, and based on the timeline, if she wasn't mated, you know, I'd say forget about it. Yeah, I don't see any eggs in here either. Yep. Yep, no eggs in here yet, so I think we're just gonna leave these guys be for another week. If in a week she still ain't laying, then we got problems.